Hello and welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Stephen Yalof. Stephen is the CEO of Tanger Outlets. Today on the show, we're talking about trends in commercial real estate and how that impacts the experience in retail. We're going to talk about what the role is of the physical retail store today and what kinds of analytics the CEO, Stephen, is looking at every single day at Tanger Outlets to maintain a competitive position in the industry. Please enjoy Stephen Yalof. Stephen, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. You are one of my favorite people because you know all about shopping, which is my favorite pastime. But I think your background is so interesting, so we should start there. You work at Ralph Lauren for 12 years doing real estate, and then
That's
you
right.
switch. So could you just talk about your background, your career, and how you got into actually real estate, and then we'll go from there.
Well, my career started in real estate. In fact, back in the early 90s, I worked for a company called New Plan Realty Trust that's now been folded into Brixmor, which is another retail-focused investment trust. But when I was at New Plan back in the early 90s, I was leasing outlet centers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my official title back then, I was real estate guy, but my job, I actually wanted that printed on my card. I worked for, there were two or three of us. We had 2 million square feet. Outlet was a brand new thing. We had 5 shopping centers in very remote destinations, places like Barstow, California, Branson, Missouri. And, the narrative back in the days of outlet was outlets needed to be 100 miles away from anything so that the retailers wouldn't compete with their
Ah,
department store business.
yeah.
So I evolved, and when I left New Plan Realty Trust, I went to work for the Gap. And at the time that I was at the Gap, which was like the late 90s, there were 35 real estate reps in the United States alone handling all of the new real estate business, new store openings, property acquisition for Gap brands. And I was part of that team. And what a great team. I mean, the who's who, the people who were working in the real estate as real estate reps at that time are now working throughout the real estate industry for the best brands and the best developers across the country.
Yeah, I could imagine. Gap, especially at that time, was just the pinnacle.
Very fortunate to have as Mickey Drexler as a mentor and business leader at the time, and just learning from Mickey was an amazing opportunity. When I left the Gap, I went to Ralph Lauren, and again, having worked on the developer side, leasing stores, and then I went to Gap, where I sort of learned from the retailer side how to lease stores. And then I
Hmm.
picked up and went to Ralph Lauren, which was ultimately a global business for us.
Right, right. Ralph Lauren, you're probably looking at urban areas, very upscale, like very strategic, I'm guessing, for real estate.
Well, it was a mix. So it was, the outlet business was a very important part of the business. And while I was there, we grew the outlets globally. So we added the continent of Europe and the continent of Asia, and we were in South America. So it was really a great growth story and a great growth strategy for the 12 or so years that I was at Ralph Lauren.
All right, so let's just dive right into what you're doing now. Tanger, huge outlet company. You didn't initially start as CEO, but you're CEO now. Seems like you started during COVID. Just tell us what that ride has been like for you.
COVID was a reinvention and it was a reset. If you go back to March of 2020 and people were, mandated to stay at home, the biggest impact was on the shopping business. A lot of
Right.
people learned how to shop online who probably hadn't had that muscle before and then became quite proficient. And we had a steep hill to climb. We had retailers that we weren't sure whether or not they were going to ultimately reopen their stores. They had large investments in people, in inventory, and frankly, in leases. But it was quite a mystery. And during those early days, things got a little scary. I joined Tanger in April of 2020.
Oh,
And the
wow.
first thing that I had to do was start to work with each of the retailer partners to make sure that when the stay-at-home mandates were lifted and we had the approval from the municipalities for each of the communities that we serve, when we have the rights to actually reopen our stores, we had to guide through a very quick and smooth transition from stores that were closed for anywhere from 3 weeks to 6 months to get them back open.
So let's just talk about the outlet industry. I do have some experience as a shopper in this industry. Like everybody goes on a road trip. And then the fun part about going on a road trip is, oh, yeah, I'm going to stop in Barstow and I'm going to hit the Coach outlet or whatever their favorite store is. But let's just talk about why this industry is so unique. Like, I mean, a lot of us can't imagine with online, like where outlets fit into that picture. However, a lot of the items in the outlet stores, I imagine people have a tough time finding on the internet. So can you just talk about what makes your industry and your company special?
Well, what makes it so special is that it's so important to the consumer, but it's equally important to the retailer. So let's take the consumer side of it first. The shopper, when they shop in an outlet, they get the opportunity to shop in a store that's branded their favorite brand, and everything in that store is that branded product, which is pretty
Right.
amazing. There's very few shopping opportunities that afford that. Department stores or multi-brand retail or other specialty stores, they'll curate an assortment of product from a mix of different manufacturers and put them in their store. But here,
Right.
the manufacturer is the retailer. So if you walk into a Lululemon store, everything in the store is Lululemon. You walk into a J. Crew store, everything in the store is J. Crew. And what it does is it provides not only that great opportunity to shop the brand as a lifestyle, as opposed to a classification, but everything in that store is on sale every day.
Yeah, and
So
that's why the customers are there. They want the vineyard vines. They want the label on the clothes too, or the bag.
that's right. They want bread. They're not looking for a commodity. They're not saying, I'm going to go and buy a pair of sneakers and I want to get the cheapest price. There's plenty
Yeah,
of places to go for that. What they're saying is they want Nikes,
right.
but they want Nikes at value price. And that's what you can get from a consumer point of view every day in outlets.
All right, let's just focus on the real estate piece again. We're at this interesting inflection point post COVID where people are shopping in a new way. They're on their phone, they're doing digital. We've got phygital now, new word, a mix of physical and digital. Um, let's just talk about the in store experience. What is the role now of the in store experience at a time when just so much shopping now increasingly is done online?
There's nothing that will ever take away from the experience of actually physically touching the product, seeing it, seeing the actual color, being able to hold that product up in front of you and look at yourself in a mirror, try the product on. There's so, especially in this day and age, fit is more important than ever.
Right.
Sizing is more important than ever. And, it's one thing you can go online and you can see the product and you can dream about what you're going to look like with that, in that Lululemon outfit. But there's nothing, there's no substitute for going into the fitting room and trying it on and actually seeing, yes, this is right for me. Or even as importantly, maybe not. I got to try something else. And I just feel like that experience will never go away. People need to touch product. They want to try it on, and they want to have that sort of experience, which you can only get in a physical retail store.
So, Stephen, let's just talk about some trends in commercial real estate and how that's driving industry change. What can you share with us about what's going on today?
Well, from a macro point of view, we're seeing, particularly in the cities, they're going through some tough times. A lot of the office buildings in many major cities across the country are at fairly low capacity.
Right.
Um, Either people who are going back to work are only going back for a handful of days a week. And we're finding that the traffic patterns in the cities, particularly, have changed substantially since the beginning of COVID. You know, um, Steve Roth from Vornado said on his earnings call that Friday is no longer a business day in New York City. And
Yeah.
if you think about the impact that that has on the shops that support the office trade, on the restaurants that support the office trade, it really has had it's had a devastating effect on a lot of businesses. But the flip side of that is people are going somewhere. And a lot of cases, they're going out into that secondary market. They're going to the tourist locations where they might have a second home. They're going to the suburban sites, beach communities, ski
Hmm.
and resort communities. And, there's been a lot more people in those communities on off days. So what's happened, the way the narrative seems to be changing is a lot of that daytime trade is now visiting some of those suburban and less urban shopping centers that those centers didn't see before COVID. So
Yeah.
because of that build that's occurring outside of the major cities, the role of the shopping center is starting to change.
That is such a good point. I think that's so interesting. Yeah, because now your New Yorkers, they are heading out to the beach with their family in New Jersey. Maybe they're going to the Hamptons. They might stop at one of your locations on the way. That might be part of the appeal, that relaxation has actually improved because now people are doing 3-day vacation or 3-day weekends in a way.
Well, so just continuing the story that you were just outlining. I mean, let's take Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and use that as an example. That's a
Hmm.
huge second home community for a lot of people that live in the South. So where we have two very successful centers in Myrtle Beach, we're now starting to see the customer visit us far more frequently than they had in the past. Because as they spend more time in that environment, they're coming to see us more. And how has that changed what we do? We've leaned a little bit less heavily on releasing a vacancy with another store and perhaps pivoting to a restaurant, a food and beverage purveyor,
Right.
a grocery store, um, an entertainment use. So the uses are starting to change because the customer who wants to come and shop us far more frequently is going to be looking for different things on each shopper visit. And since we find ourselves now more in the experience business than we did in the past, we want to make sure that we're curating a great experience for the shopper so they'll come visit us more often, stay longer when they do, and ultimately spend more money when they're there.
Yeah, on the East Coast, I lived on the East Coast for a long time. Like shopping at the outlets in the summer is something to do. Like you make a day of it. And if you make a day of it, that means you got to eat. Maybe your husband doesn't want to shop. He's got to go somewhere. Maybe he's taking the kids. So you get a moment to go into coach or what have you. So yeah, you're looking more at an experience for a family where it's a whole day. And so that changes how you strategize what you put in those locations.
That's right. In Deer Park, Long Island, we have a movie theater. So just like
Perfect.
you said, there's going to be a car full of people that are going to go to the outlet center. Some of them are going to go to the movies, and others are going to want to shop, and others are going to want to sit and watch a sporting event at one of the sports bars. So there's a number of different things that the customer can do when they come and visit us now that we didn't lean as heavily into pre-COVID, but now thinking about what the consumer is looking for, the experience that they're looking for, and how to round that experience out, we're changing the narrative. Blake, we say we have a vision statement here. When we think about the future of Tanger, we
Hmm.
say that the What our vision statement is using customer insights and customer experience to inform the future of shopping. So what
Uh-huh.
that means to us is let's listen to what the customer wants. Let's listen to what it's going to take to get them to make another visit, to stay longer, and like I said, spend more money. And we're executing.
Stephen, let's talk about what you're looking at, like your dashboard. When you get that data and analytics about the Tanger customers, what are you looking for and what is served up to you?
Well, sales is a very important part of our business. We get the retailers share with us their store sales. So that's important to us. And, as they're our partner, percentage rent is a big part of the retail business. That means that each of the retailers contribute as part of their rent payment a percentage of the sales that over a certain threshold that they're able to generate in their store.
Okay.
By definition, that makes me their partner in every single store they have. So any information that I can get from them or information that I can collect from all of my retailers that I can share back with them helps me tell a better story, helps me help support their business, because the more successful they are, ultimately the more successful you.
Well, great. So what drives those spikes in sales? I know you have a new loyalty program out. Like, could you just talk about the sales strategy and what you've learned creates those good sales days?
Sure. Well, first of all, going back to some of those locations that we have that are by the beach, and we have a lot of them, all you need to see is clouds in the sky and our parking lots fill up. When people leave the beach, they come and visit us. So it's, I don't want to be I don't want to be the weatherman, but I will say when I see a cloudy day in some of our geographies, it doesn't disappoint.
Okay.
Um, but you mentioned our loyalty program. Tanger in the 42-year history has always had a Tanger Club, and that club has always provided better value and better offers to our loyal Tanger Club members. So we've created Tanger Club 2.0 to pretty much leverage off of the popularity of that club. And membership truly has its privileges. In the case of the Tanger Loyalty Club, there are several different levels. There's a free level. Just by sharing with us some personal data, your email address, we provide back to you and your favorite brands. We provide back to you personalized shopping experiences and discounts for the brands that you love. So you mentioned Coach several times. If that's a brand that you love, if there is a Coach offer, we can target and tailor that Coach offer to those who have checked accessories and handbags as being the thing that they like. And we stay away from perhaps, our athletic fitness or our tools, because basically what we want to do is we want to make sure our customer opens our emails, not deletes them. And if you over communicate, there's a chance that if I send you an email once that you said, yeah, when Tanger sends me an email, it's really not relevant to me, you're going to delete that email. But if I can ensure that every one of the emails that I send you have some relevance, provides you with some additional discount on a brand that you love or a category that you support, I can ensure that you're going to open those emails far more frequently. And when you do, we'll get some response. So that's part of the partnership that we have with our retailers in order to help us continue to drive traffic.
So you're very meticulous about when you communicate with customers and what you say, because you know that every time you send a message, if you flood them with irrelevant content, they're not going to take you seriously anymore.
I think we're getting better. We recognize the fact that phenomenon exists. The greatest part about all 315 people that work for Tanger, every single one of us is a shopper. Every one of
Is
us
that
is a consumer.
corporate or is that like retail
That's
stores too?
that's corporate and field. The retail stores alone, those are the retailer employees. But
Oh, okay.
between the management teams that we have on site and our corporate employees, we have about 315 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I remind them every time we have a town hall, every time I have an opportunity to speak. I'm going on the road later this week. We'll visit 6 or 7 shopping centers and we'll meet with our management teams. But what we remind them all the time is that they are our customer and they need to think through the eyes of the customer so that we can take what was great about their experience and lean real heavily into it and take what perhaps wasn't great about their experience and make sure that we make those corrections. You know, you remember the game Mad Libs, back when we were
Mm-hmm.
kids, it was Mad Libs.
Yeah.
In our all company meeting this year, I challenged the team to fill in the blank at the end of the sentence. And the statement was, I had a good experience, but it would have been great if. Now
Mm.
we all think that way. We all kind of say, you go to a restaurant, you say, yeah, it was good, but what would have made it great? Or, you saw a movie and you said, I like the movie, but what would have made it great? So we're challenging our team to say, hey, what would have made that experience great? And then get that collection of thoughts so that we can figure out how to get back out to our shopping centers and execute to great.
When the average consumer thinks about a shopping mall or a discount store, they might not think of a very well manicured and organized and clean facility. What do you do to counter that, let's say, stereotype that these malls or discount stores are not as manicured or beautiful or well run as like traditional, let's say like the Kate Spade store or like you said, Lululemon?
Um, well, look, we have standards, and I think that there's a lot of competition in the marketplace. So let's start with the national tenants first. The national tenants know what everybody else is doing, and it's a competitive game out there, and they know that they need to ratchet up their appearance, their look, their feel in order to compete. If you think about the reason why a lot of these retailers are opening up outlet stores, it is very critical. We talked about the consumer's point of view. They get to get value every day in a lifestyle environment, the brands they love. But why
Right.
are the retailers opening up these stores? Well, part of it is to clear excess inventory, but there's another major reason that these retailers are looking to find a new consumer that might not shop with them through other channels. Some of the brands that we see on Madison Avenue or Rodeo Drive or Bond Street in London, the perception is these are very expensive, high barrier to entry brands where the price point could be intimidating for a lot of the shoppers. But in an
Mhm.
outlet environment, an aspirational customer who may not want to spend Madison Avenue prices on designer clothing can actually go into an outlet center and buy designer clothing at a price point that works for their budget. And
Mhm.
that's important for the consumer, but it's equally important for the retailer because the retailer now has an opportunity to acquire a new customer that they may not have seen in any other channel and then trade them up through their ecosystem, through their communication. So there's a customer, we talked about, Ralph Lauren is a great example of a brand that everybody knows the polo player logo
Right.
and aspires to have a piece of that product.
Yes.
That could be the entry level at an outlet center that fuels a lifetime fan of the Ralph Lauren brand that ultimately trades up through their ecosystem.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think it's an exciting time for you because there is this whole shift now toward the physical being cool. Like it's unique or to go to a physical store because so much is online and people are craving that human touch, that sense of discovery. So I think it's an interesting time for you actually as well.
Well, I think the closets of America are filled with things that one day we'll get around to returning that we bought online that didn't quite, you know, fit the profile of the item that we thought that we were buying. I mean, but that said, you talk about cool retail, look no further than direct to consumer brands. The direct to consumer brands, the Warby Parkers of the world, the
Mhm.
Allbirds, Somersault, Mac Weldon, brands that we only saw online are now discovering outlet as a channel to not only clear excess inventory, but also meet a new consumer where that consumer is.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's super smart. And I think it'll be interesting to watch your industry and see how it continues to grow. Let's get to know you a little bit, Stephen. Are you good to take some rapid fire questions so we can get to know you on a more personal level?
Okay, let's go.
You ready? Okay.
Sure.
All right. What does your morning routine look like?
I either run, row, or ride.
The three R's. Got it. Okay. Do you have a unique leadership hack that helped get you to where you are today?
Well, let's say I like to listen more and speak a little bit less. I think I learn a lot. I learn a lot while I'm listening.
Mm-hmm. Got it. What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic business day?
Uh, I'm a guitar player, and so I grab a guitar, and to me, that's the best way to unwind.
What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
The one that I met, the one that I read most recently that had a great impact on me, I read Robert Iger's book,
Oh.
A Ride of a Lifetime, Disney.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was amazing. And the first chapter of that book is as thrilling as like a John Grisham book. I would encourage everybody. Great
I have
leadership
that
messages throughout
downstairs.
that.
Okay,
Fabulous.
good. I'm gonna read that one. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Oh gosh. Um, I, you know, I I guess look, I think I've never really taken anything that seriously. I always like to approach things pretty even. I love the more challenging day. I guess you can look back on something that was really challenging and say, wow, I can't believe I got through that. Okay, I can do anything.
Perfect. That works. What is your favorite type of vacation?
I like a skiing vacation. I can't sit still. So if I'm out on vacation, I need an activity all day.
Got it. Got it. If you could have lunch with anybody dead or alive, who would it be?
I'm gonna have to go with Jerry Garcia.
Okay. If you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would that be?
I think everything worth having is worth working for.
I love that. Oh, and my dog likes that one
He
too.
agrees. He agrees.
Yeah, she Athena likes that positive motto. Well, I really appreciate you being here, Stephen. And if people want to learn more about Tanger Outlets, where can they do that?
Well, Tanger.com, or feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I love chatting. I'm happy to get back. And listen to our earnings call. We just delivered our earnings last week, and you'll learn a lot about the company and a lot about the people that make it happen here at Tanger.
All right, Stephen. Well, thank you. This has been so fun. I hope you'll come back in the future, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Blake. I really enjoyed it.
You've all been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time.